Hi, I'm Stephanie Robin, and this is part 2 of 3 with Bryan Caporicci from Sprout Studio. Today we are talking about your client design experience. I hope you all tuned in for part 1 yesterday for some fantastic information on why it's so important and mapping your journey. And today we're going to continue on with Bryan. Hi, Bryan.
Hi, Steph. How are you?
I'm still good. So I wanted to talk to you a little bit about this whole idea of the client experience, but more so how it can affect your sales in the end part of your experience with your client, if that is the end point. Because I think overall that's sort of the bottom line for us. We need to be making money in our industry, and I'm wondering if all of this effort is worth it in terms of that sale that you're going to get at the end of the experience.
Wouldn't it be great if I just said, yeah, you know what? It's actually not worth it, really, now that I think about it. No, I'm kidding. So it's everything. Like the client experience is everything. It is the new creating experiences is the new currency. Like that is what people are going to pay for. And I've got a couple of stats here that I think actually might be interesting. So I'm gonna stare down at my screen and just look at the stats. But a couple of them that really speak to the importance of creating experience and how people buy. There was a whole bunch of studies that have been done on this because this really is a trend that is, well, and I say trend, it's not a trend. This is the sort of the shift in status quo, but it's happening in every industry from Starbucks and coffee culture and that kind of space to other service-based experiences to Walt Disney and the experiences that they're creating for things. So there's this idea of creating and designing experiences has really worked its way into pretty much every industry today because it's the way that people buy. It's the way that people find value in what they want to exchange money for. In every exchange, there is always this subconscious transaction happening. And you can think about it if you think about anything that you buy, you think, is what I'm about to get of higher value than the amount of money I'm going to give them for it? And if the answer is yes, well, then it's worthwhile and you want to pursue it. If the answer is no, you say it's too expensive. And that happens all the time. And so in order for us to elevate that value, in order for us to actually justify our prices, people are paying for experiences today. So we have to be serving that. So some of these stats that I find that are interesting is that by 2020, it has been shown in surveys that experience will be more important than price and product together for the way that people buy.
That's powerful.
That's super fascinating. Another study said that 70% of a purchasing decision when you go and buy something is related to how the customer feels. And that really isn't a surprise because we know that we buy on emotion and then justify with logic later. But this study just kind of further emphasizes people buy because of how they're made to feel when they're buying. And customer experience is probably the greatest way to influence how somebody feels when they're making a purchasing decision. Another stat that is fascinating. Now, this is something that's really interesting, and I resisted this for a long time. Our biggest demographic as photographers today, I would argue, is going to be millennials, and that's only going to increase in the coming years and decades because they are the largest group, the largest sort of cohort of buyers today in today's society. And by the way, the part that I resisted was I'm actually technically a millennial. And for the longest time, I was like, no, millennials are like anyone born after, 1990. I did the research and it's anyone, I think it was born after like 1980. And I was just like, no, that means I'm a millennial. Anyways, so I'm a millennial, but I'm not a typical millennial. But regardless, studies have shown, and this one study in specific said that 72% of millennials prefer to pay for experiences over things. 72% prefer to pay for experiences over things. It's fascinating. So it just goes to show that experiences are that currency. That is what people want to be paying for. So when it comes to why would we do it? Well, it makes sense because that's what people want to be buying. That's what people are looking to buy, are looking to purchase. But I think as we go deeper and as we kind of unravel the idea of creating experiences and how it affects our sales, how it affects our referrals, it has effects on all of this. And the sort of four, I've got a thing here, I'll pull up the four main things that I say when you design experiences for clients. There's four main benefits, and there's a whole bunch of fringe benefits. Number one, you're going to attract the right kind of clients. So who doesn't want to have the right kind of clients buying their services as a photographer? Obviously, you're going to be happier, right? You're going to get more referrals because you're making people happier. You're getting the right kind of client. They're connecting with you. You're creating great experiences for them. And so they're going to go and refer more people to you. Number three, you're going to make more money because, again, people prefer to pay for experiences over things. So if you're creating an experience, people will actually pay more for that. And number four, you're going to have happier clients. So you're going to be happier. They're going to be happier. You're going to make more money, and you're going to get more people like them. That sounds like a pretty darn good case for designing experiences. So that's kind of how it affects your bottom line. Not only is it making sense because it's leaning into where status quo is moving to, but it has massive business benefits as well.
Yeah, I really kind of feel that in that sales session at the end, you know, when you're showing them all of their images and you really are working off that emotional sale, that how they felt, not only in the session itself, but throughout that process will affect, you know, how much they do want to invest in your product. And I think also, you know, there's that other component where you've built the trust now. And I think trust helps to sell, right? Because if they know that they can trust you and you're telling them your products are wonderful products, so you know, you're going to get that product sale as well as the initial buy-in to your business, I think.
Totally. You know what's funny, and I use this both with clients when I'm selling my own photography, but I also use it in this example when teaching about experience design. And I say, think about a song that you used to listen to when you were younger, right? So think, you know, back to when you were 15 years old or 16 years old, and you know, maybe it's Spice Girls, maybe it's Backstreet Boys. I don't know. I'm just thinking of the bands that were popular when I was that age, right? But think of a song that you used to listen to when you were that age, and just play it in your head for a second, right? And kind of, you know, hum to it, tap your toes to it, that kind of thing. I'm willing to bet that you are transformed. You're almost transported back to that time in your life. If you were to listen to that song, you're transported back to when that song was popular. And so if you were to hear that song today on the radio, if you play it on YouTube, whatever, hum it in your head, you're probably having this flood of memories come to you, right? Where it's like, oh yeah, I remember like we lived in this house and I remember hanging out with this person and my parents were going through this. And I remember I had this car, like whatever the thing
Like,
is.
you literally just put me right back into my high school.
Yeah, totally. Right. And like that is the way, that is the magic of music. Like music has this ability to quite literally transport us in time. And I go on to say that photography has the exact same magic. It has the exact same ability that when you look at a picture, you are transported to when that picture was created.
Yeah.
And that is why we as human beings can find so much meaning in a photograph. I mean, I could show you a picture of, you know, myself when I was 16 years old. And to you, you're like, look at that, like crazy looking kid with like the long bangs and the black hair, right? Whereas I'm like, oh my gosh, I remember that picture being taken. I remember what was going on. I remember my dad taking the picture. I remember who I was with at the time. I remember all these things because I look at a picture. So when you craft experiences for your clients holistically, which we've talked about here, it's not just at the session, but the session being a big part of it. When you craft a great experience during the time that you're taking the pictures, whenever your client looks back at those pictures, they're going to be transported back to that time when you made that experience. And if it was a great experience, they're going to value those photographs so much more.
Awesome. Thanks again, Bryan. That was part 2 of 2 in our client experience recording here. I think everyone's getting some great value and some wonderful information. So stay tuned tomorrow for part 3 in this series, where we're going to talk about how you can implement better systems in your business, you know, and some easy steps that you can take to start giving a better client experience and reaping the benefits of this system.
Awesome.
Thanks, Bryan.
See you then.